Well, hey there, it's your old pal Keith from Wavetables.lol. That's Wavetables.lol, home of KRC Mathwaves, my enormous collection of wavetables, single-cycle waveforms, and even some samplers for all sorts of modern synthesizers, including our friend Phase Plant here from Kilohearts. How do you say that? Kilohearts Phase Plant. Phase Plant is a pretty interesting synthesizer that includes a wavetable oscillator, like I've got here. I've got a fairly simple patch that has two wavetable oscillators in it, using two of the wavetables from the free collection of KRC Mathwaves, which is a sampler of about 1,600 wavetables made with various techniques. That's just a tiny window into the complete collection. The complete KRC Mathwaves collection is, believe it or not, more than 150,000 wavetables, many of which are now available in Phase Plant. Now, I am going to get to how to import wavetables into Phase Plant, and there's really two ways to do it. But first I want to talk a little bit about the format. So, Phase Plant is a little bit different from other wavetable synthesizers. Now, most of the common wavetable synthesizers out there support import of wavetables that are 32-bit wave files, and this was a format that was pioneered by Serum. They can typically have any number of frames in the wavetable. So what you've got is a series of waveforms that are all 2048 samples in length. You save it as a as a .wave file in 32-bit format, and then most synthesizers can read those in. Now, Phase Plant is a little different. To properly read a wavetable into Phase Plant, it has to be a 32-bit wave file, but there have to be 256 frames. So there have to be 256 individual 2048 samples inside of that wave file. And so this makes for files that are pretty long, pretty large. They take a lot of hard disk space. Many of my wavetables use as few as two waveforms, and we just let the synthesizer do a time linear or a spectral morph between those frames. But in Phase Plant, you've got to convert things in such a way that you've got 256 frames. So what I've done is I am working my way through the KRC Mathwaves collection, converting them into Phase Plant special format. Unfortunately, these are very large files. Thankfully, Phase Plant supports both the .wave and also .flac. That's the free lossless audio codec format, which applies a little bit of lossless compression to the wave files to make them a little bit smaller. So that's a little bit strange. So one of the takeaways with Phase Plant, right, is that it's essentially pre-morphing the transition here, right? So here's a wavetable that goes from this waveform to a waveform that's like this, and then finally to this kind of square type of waveform. And in my original file for this, there are only 64 frames here. And I limit my wavetable generation to 64 frames because that's the format that modwave supports. And most other synthesizers morph just fine between those. But in Phase Plant, like I said, we've got to do it in advance. I have seen other tutorials on the interweb about wavetables in Phase Plant, and note that if you can attempt to import any sort of other wavetable into this synth, but it'll do it wrong. And so I had originally thought that my wavetables were compatible with Phase Plant, but really they need this special treatment to work. Okay, so how to actually import wavetables, whether you've got KRC Mathwaves or some other 256 frame wave format wavetable into Phase Plant? Well, there's really two ways to do it. What you have to have first is a wavetable oscillator in your patch. So just add a wavetable oscillator, and then when you go to select a wavetable, you'll find that there's both a user section And where's the factory section? There's a factory section. And you'll see that when you click the user section, there's a link to this user wavetable directory. And so you can click it here, and it'll open your file system, and it will be a directory like this. You got kilohertz presets and then user wavetables, and it does understand folders. So you can put folders and subfolders of wavetables in here. So for example, I've taken the KRC Mathwaves volume 4 wavetables, and I've just dropped them into user wavetables, and now they become available here. Now again, these files are pretty large. Let's take a look at that. So let's go inside this. You will see that, oops, and we're not showing size. I hate this view in Windows. So you'll see that some of these wavetables are almost as big as if they were wave files. So a 64 frame wave file will be about 512 megabytes. Now this 256 FLAC version here is a whole 411 kilobytes. So they're pretty big. These get big fast. And when you download my zip files that have wavetables in them, you'll probably want to discard the zip after extracting them, because some of these bad boys are like, 2 gigs or more. If we look at the full collection, if you were to buy KRC Mathwaves, you'll get a product page that looks something like this. This is my editing view, but you'll find a section for Phase Plant. You'll find like Phase Plant wavetables from the original KRC Mathwaves collection, and you can see that like some of these are very large. So like this zip file is 1.1 gigabytes. If we look at some other collections, like let's see, the basic morph, splice, and convolution created wavetables, you'll see that these are all like about 2 gigabytes in size. So they're really big. So file management becomes an issue. All right. So that was the first way to add wavetables, just to open up the user directory, and then you can drop folders of, again, the 256 frame wave format or FLAC format wavetables in here. Now, the other thing you can do is if you scroll all the way to the bottom in the left-hand pane here, there's an add location button. And so you can instead of dropping folders into the user directory, you could also just navigate to a folder that's somewhere else in your file system. Like, for example, I've got all of the KRC Mathwaves and more wavetables here, and I think I haven't imported the VA363 collection. So let's maybe go get that. Here's VA63A wavetables, Phase Plant, FLAC. There it is. So I'm going to select that. And you'll see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 6 folders underneath there. I can click OK. And this is going to add that to my collection of wavetables. So here's KRC VA363A wavetables, and there are the folders inside it. I can navigate into the folders. Let's go get a Bezier format wavetable. Now, I believe there are hundreds of wavetables in each folder in this version. Maybe there's actually more than 1,000. So it can take a moment for it to read all the wavetables in and to visualize them. But then you can just go and select one, and maybe we could audition it here. Let's turn off our, oops, there we go. Turn off this other oscillator. And then, of course, you can navigate to the next and previous waveforms or wavetables. I keep saying waveforms today. Why is that? Well, there you go. So those are the 2 ways to import wavetables into Phase Plant. A lot of people have asked me to do some videos on Phase Plant, and I surely will in the future. I think it's an interesting synthesizer. A little bit of a spoiler alert, maybe. I don't really like these synthesizers that don't have a pre-structured architecture. It's like Phase Plant is completely modular. Now, that's great if you're an advanced synthesis. I've been programming synthesizers for, a long time. So I understand the different types of modulations that you might do. And how we might achieve them in a synth like this. But, if you're new to synthesis, it's not very friendly, because you got to know like what it is that a synthesizer would typically do, right? And so I'm of two minds about this. It's flexible. It sounds pretty good. I think the fact that it doesn't, like, in real time morph between frames is a little bit of a missed opportunity there. But also, I guess that probably makes it very CPU efficient with its wavetable oscillators. So, I guess I'll talk about that more. One thing that, I really need to do here, because I haven't done much programming in Phase Plant yet, is like make my own init patch that like has all my favorite modulations already set up. I also find the modulation like, a little bit fiddly. So like if I want to modulate something with velocity, at least, my old eyes, hitting these targets is a little bit fiddly. Like if we wanted to modulate shift here with velocity, oh, that's weird. It's just kind of fiddly to get that little tiny dial. And it's hard to see all the modulations at once. Anyway, it's interesting, I guess. It's fine. All right. Anyway, go get KRC Mathwaves. The free version has 1,600 wavetables in it now for Phase Plant. That entire collection. There's a Phase Plant version that you'll find when you go to the free sampler. You just enter your email address. It doesn't cost anything, although you can tip me if you like. You will find a section here for Phase Plant. You'll find all of the original free wavetable collections inside there as individual zip files. And then a big part of this library is 1,400 wavetables that were made with one of my latest variational autoencoder models. And so you'll find a separate link to those. It's 1.6 gigabytes for Phase Plant down here at the bottom of that page. All right, go get KRC Mathwaves at Wavetables.lol. Have fun, make some weird sounds. The full version is $29. It's often on sale. Oh, if you go peep one of my more recent videos, like go to my KRC Mathwaves playlist and peep the most recent video before this one, you might find a discount code there for KRC Mathwaves that might still be good by the time you see this video. Also, like and subscribe for more talky synthesizer content. This video is fairly short, but I make these long talky videos about all sorts of audio topics, not just wavetables, but often with a wavetable slant on them. We're over 900 subscribers now, and I'm going to do something special when we hit 1,000. I'm not sure what it is yet, but we will do something cool and special. So hey, like and subscribe so you never miss new talky synthesizer content, and I will talk to you later.